Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, March 26th. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect a high of 85 degrees in San Antonio today. The San Antonio region could be in for another round of wet weather this weekend, but the National Weather Service says it's too early to say how much rain will fall. First-time claims for unemployment benefits rose for the second consecutive week, reaching the highest level since July. Weekly claims in Texas last week increased by about 6,500. In more grim news, the death toll from last month's winter storm has climbed to 111, according to updated figures released Thursday by the Department of State Health Services. And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. Nate, Jaime, and Berta Gutierrez were a tangle of giggles, cell phones, and raspas one recent evening outside Chamoy city limits as they snapped photos of themselves and the over-the-top snow cones the business is known for to post on Instagram. The laughter wasn't only music to owner Ana Fernandez's ears, but money in the bank as well. Fernandez is just one of many established San Antonio food businesses that have adopted Instagram, with all of its endless food porn, selfies, and constant engagement with customers as the de facto tool for promoting their goods. For many established San Antonio restaurants, having a strong, eye-catching presence on Instagram has meant adopting a wide variety of changes. Paul Stephen has more in his latest article. 48-year-old Josefa Cruz had to call WellMed's hotline for a week to secure an appointment for herself and her two daughters. She took a celebratory selfie with a volunteer who was sanitizing the seats and expressed relief that they'd managed to get in before the expected rush. That rush begins Monday, when all Texas adults become eligible for the shots. The appointments will remain hard to get, but there are more ways to get them, officials said. Vaccine stock throughout the community is increasing as federal sources distribute more doses to private doctors' offices, retail drugstore chains, and independent pharmacies. But universal eligibility will keep the bottleneck narrow for appointments. Head over to expressnews.com to check out a few tips for getting the vaccine in San Antonio. The Texas Attorney General's office is attempting to withhold all messages Ken Paxton sent or received while in Washington for the pro-Donald Trump rally that devolved into a riot at the U.S. Capitol. Several news organizations in Texas have requested copies of the Attorney General's work-related communications. The Texas Public Information Act guarantees the public's right to government records, even if those records are stored on personal devices or online accounts of public officials. After Paxton's office refused to release copies of his emails and text messages, the San Antonio Express News and several other publications are working together in an effort to obtain the documents and review Paxton's open records practices. Head over to expressnews.com to find out what we know. If you're one of the 23 city council candidates competing in District 3 and 5 in the May 1st election, you've probably received a curious piece of mail from an unfamiliar organization. A group calling itself the San Antonio Equity Alliance has sent out a candidate questionnaire with the promise that completing the form will put you in consideration for an endorsement from the group. Candidates would be forgiven for asking, what is the San Antonio Equity Alliance and what are they hoping to accomplish? Gilbert Garcia introduces the new Political Action Committee in his latest column. Texas's mask mandate expired March 10th, leaving it up to businesses and individuals to decide on whether they would continue with COVID-19 safety protocols. In the 2 weeks since the restrictions ended, we asked our readers to share their experiences. Head over to expressnews.com to check out their responses. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. On Thursday, President Joe Biden went on the offensive, blaming President Donald Trump for undermining efforts to address an influx of migrants at the border that Republicans have spent weeks calling a crisis of Biden's creation. The Biden administration is moving forward with plans to house thousands of migrant children at 2 temporary shelters in San Antonio, at Joint Base San Antonio-Lackland and possibly Freeman Coliseum, officials said on Thursday. More than a month after the deadly storms that crippled the state's electric grid, lawmakers passed their first major reforms of the state's top utility regulator and promised more changes to come. As Texas prepares to make all adults eligible for COVID-19 vaccines starting Monday, a trio of San Antonio City Council members is trying to force a debate on establishing a one-stop portal for scheduling vaccinations. The number of coronavirus cases was up Thursday, and 3 new deaths were reported as well. But Mayor Ron Nirenberg saw reason for optimism, saying recent trends have been promising. A German engineering firm that does work for electric vehicle maker Tesla plans to open its North American headquarters on San Antonio's east side and hire at least 50 workers over the next 5 years. A person was found dead in a tent Thursday morning at a homeless encampment under Interstate 37 in downtown, according to the San Antonio Police Department. The Texas House Elections Committee abruptly ended its meeting today before about 200 people who traveled to the Capitol could testify on controversial anti-voter fraud bill. Find out why over on our website. While Texas is expected to consume a record amount of electricity this summer, the state's grid manager, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, said it will have more than enough power to meet demand. Gulf Avionics, an aircraft maintenance company, is the latest business to land at the Kerrville-Kerr County Airport. The subsidiary of E.H. Caddis & Co. expects to create 50 jobs over the next 5 years at its new Hill Country headquarters. Stan Albeck, who with his 1980-style perm guided the Spurs to consecutive appearances in the Western Conference Finals against the Showtime Los Angeles Lakers in 1982 and 1983, died Thursday. He was 89. Business columnist Michael Taylor writes, quote, "An upcoming deadline to seek recovery from a precious metals company that allegedly took advantage of elderly conservatives is a reminder of the dangers of financial predators, but also of the dangers of precious metal investing in general." Read his latest Smart Money column over on our website. The Express News editorial board writes, quote, "Pundits and politicians are calling the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border a crisis, but the problem has persisted for weeks, and the word suddenly seems too small, too puny to convey the gravity of what we're seeing now." Long before the coronavirus arrived in the United States, people living in this part of Bexar County have been at higher risk of serious health complications resulting in shorter lifespans. The federal government designates this area near Southwest High School as a place with a severe shortage of primary care professionals, noting most of its population has low income. School-based health centers first opened up years ago in northern states, and there's robust evidence showing that regular child well visits and vaccinations keep students in school. The Southwest ISD Clinic has been a lifesaver for many. Laro Garcia has more in her latest article. For Joy and Ben Culpepper, restoring the 1882 Fredericksburg ranch house that had been in Joy's family for generations was at once an act of love and commerce, with a few surprises to boot. Check out photos from the project in Richard Marini's latest story. Brasserie Mon Chouchou, the ambitious new French restaurant at the Pearl that opened in the dark December days of the pandemic, gets our first star-rated review in more than a year as the San Antonio scene shakes itself back to life. With marquee names on stage at least 3 venues, this may be the busiest week for live entertainment in San Antonio in more than a year. There are also some virtual and outdoor events. Take a look at what the weekend has to offer over at expressnews.com. With the bulk of the roster returning from last year's 7-win team, UTSA coach Jeff Traylor said the Roadrunners will be focused on building depth and expanding schemes as spring practice begins. San Antonio FC will cap attendance at about 3,200 fans for this season's home opener matches at Toyota Field, according to the club on Thursday. The home opener is a little more than a month away. At Thursday's trade deadline, the Spurs didn't trade LaMarcus Aldridge, but they picked up Marquise Chris in a small deal. Columnist Mike Finger thinks the team's future is in a good place. Find out why in his latest article. And that's all for today. This was your Express briefing for Friday, March 26th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful day, everyone.